Mickey Rooney died in 2014 with only $18,000 to his name. His body sat unclaimed for days while his family fought. His biological children got nothing in his final will. For years, people whispered about what really happened in those last months. Now, 11 years later, his family has broken their silence. What they're revealing about Mickey's final days is darker than anyone imagined. The elder abuse was just the beginning. There were secrets about his death that even the courts never heard. The truth about America's biggest child star will shock you. He was born in Brooklyn on September 23, 1920, while his parents were performing in a show called A Gaiety Girl. His real name was Ninian Joseph Yule Jr., but everyone would come to know him as Mickey Rooney. His father was a Scottish vaudeville comic who had left Glasgow for a shot in America. His mother had danced in chorus lines and worked burlesque stages in Missouri. Before he could even talk properly, his mother dressed him in a miniature tuxedo, handed him a harmonica, and pushed him out on stage. At just 17 months old, he was part of the act. He sang little songs like "Pal O' My Cradle Days," danced across the floor, and told the crowd he wanted to entertain them for the rest of his life. His favorite place was under the stage, hiding with the harmonica tied around his neck, watching adults perform until someone dragged him out into the lights. By age 2, they were calling him Sonny Yule, and he was already doing full routines in his parents' act, Joe Yule & Co. He was tiny but fearless, mimicking grown-up dancers and comedians, getting laughs just by existing. His father had charm on stage but drank off it. He chased women and made home life impossible. Mickey didn't grow up in a house. He grew up in backstage dressing rooms, hotel lobbies, and run-down boarding homes, watching drunks argue and performers get fired. Nothing was steady. In 1924, when he was just 4, his parents finally split for good. Vaudeville was dying anyway, and Nellie, his mother, took him across the country to Hollywood with nothing but a few bags and some desperate hope. They bounced between Kansas City and Los Angeles for months, broke most of the time. Nellie tried running a tourist home. She failed. She found an ad offering $5 a day for kids to act in Hal Roach's comedies. She turned it down, hoping she could find something better for her son. She didn't want him to be just another face in a crowd. In 1926, when he was 6, Mickey landed his first film role in a silent short called Not to Be Trusted. He played a cigar-smoking kid, even though he was still a real child. The film wasn't great, but it got him noticed. Then Nellie saw another ad. They needed a dark-haired boy to play a cartoon character called Mickey Maguire. Her son was blonde, so she rubbed burnt cork into his scalp. It worked. He got the part. From 1927 to 1934, he starred in 78 Mickey Maguire comedy shorts. The first one he got top billing in was Mickey's Circus, released September 4, 1927. He was only 7, but he was doing backflips, pratfalls, and street-tough banter like a pro. He played the scrappy troublemaker so well that people forgot he was acting. His real name was still Joe Yule Jr., but they legally changed it to Mickey Maguire, even forcing Nellie to change her last name to match, just to dodge a lawsuit. But the comic strip's creator sued anyway. They lost. The Mickey Maguire shorts became the only real competition to Hal Roach's Our Gang. They made the jump from silent to sound films around 1929 or 1930, which most kid comedies couldn't survive. But Mickey did. He had fast timing, a squeaky voice, and years of vaudeville in his blood. Talkies helped him shine even more. In 1931, he voiced Oswald the Lucky Rabbit after the original actor left. Some said he did 13 cartoons, but even that job didn't last long. That same year, at 11, he got a small part in The Beast of the City, playing Walter Houston's son and working beside Jean Harlow. In 1933, he appeared in The Life of Jimmy Dolan with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Loretta Young, and a young John Wayne. Fairbanks said the 12-year-old Rooney was already so good, it was scary. He learned from everyone. He watched how they moved, how they hit their marks, how they survived in a business that chewed people up and spit them out. By the time the Mickey Maguire series ended in 1934, Mickey was 14 and out of a job. The final film, Mickey's Medicine Man, was released that year. He couldn't use the Maguire name anymore, but then came A Midsummer Night's Dream. Warner Brothers borrowed him from MGM. He played Puck, leaping through shadows and firelight, half naked and wild. They used 650,000 candles and 600,000 yards of cellophane for the effects. Critics said his performance felt inhuman, in a good way. On August 22, 1934, MGM signed him full-time. His salary jumped to $2,500 a week by 1937, with huge bonuses. Just a few years earlier, he'd been running newspapers through Hollywood to help his mother make rent. In 1937, MGM released a low-budget B-movie called A Family Affair. Mickey played Andy Hardy, a loud, fast-talking teenage boy. The film wasn't meant to start a franchise, but something about Mickey's energy struck a chord with audiences. They saw their own teenage sons in him. Awkward, nervous, desperate for attention, always chasing the wrong girl. MGM replaced the expensive adult actors and built the series around Mickey instead. Between 1937 and 1946, they made 15 Hardy family films. They earned over $75 million at a time when tickets cost a quarter. Mickey became Hollywood's top box office star from 1939 to 1941. In 1939, at just 18, he won a special juvenile Oscar. Behind the scenes, he had real chemistry with his co-stars. Louis Stone, who played Judge Hardy, became like a second father. Fay Holden played his mother. Cecilia Parker played his sister. They stuck around for most of the films. Director George Seitz and writer Kay Van Riper kept the same rhythm going. Mickey improvised a lot. He made up slang, jokes, and bits that made the films feel real. But off-camera, Mickey wasn't Andy Hardy. He drank, smoked, and slept around. Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM, told him to behave. "You're Andy Hardy. You're the United States." But Mickey didn't listen. He partied hard, and by 1962, he'd blown through $12 million. Booze, gambling, alimony, it all vanished. The boy who had once earned laughs at 17 months old was broke, divorced, and fading fast. In 1938, a film called Judge Hardy's Children took the fictional Hardy family to Washington, D.C., where the son, Andy, developed a crush on a French ambassador's daughter. It was the third movie in what would become a wildly successful series. That one story helped launch something bigger than anyone expected. The Andy Hardy films went on to earn almost $1.9 billion at the worldwide box office when adjusted for inflation. And right in the center of it all was Mickey Rooney, who became the #1 box office star in the world from 1939 to 1941. For 3 years in a row, he held that top spot. At the peak of his fame, he was making $150,000 a year, which would be over $2.5 million today. He wasn't just another actor on the MGM lot, he was their most valuable one. And yet, even at his highest point, things were already starting to shake behind the scenes. That same year, Love Finds Andy Hardy was released. It showed Andy trying to juggle 3 girls and find enough money to make a final payment on a used car so he could take Polly to a Christmas Eve dance. It was light, fun, and fast. The movie was shot in just 19 days, with an extra week added just for Judy Garland's musical numbers. That film earned $1,637,000 in the US and Canada, and another $610,000 overseas. The final profit came out to $1,345,000. It was also the first time Judy Garland appeared in the series. She was just 16, playing a 12-year-old neighbor named Betsy, who had a quiet crush on Andy. The chemistry between her and Rooney clicked immediately. Their bond, both on and off screen, became one of Hollywood's most talked-about partnerships. Later that year, Out West with the Hardys sent the family to an Arizona ranch. There were no love stories this time, just Andy trying to prove he wasn't a useless city boy. He failed again and again while competing with a smart ranch girl named Jake Holt, played by 11-year-old Virginia Weidler. The Western setting drew big crowds who wanted something new but familiar. It worked. The movie kept the Hardy name strong and showed the series could shift tone without losing its charm. Then came The Hardys Ride High, where the family suddenly inherited $2 million. They moved into a mansion in Detroit. Judge Hardy became heir to a war hero from 1812. Andy got himself into trouble with an older chorus girl named Consuela. Marion went on wild shopping sprees. Aunt Millie rushed into a marriage she barely thought through. It was satire masked as comedy. And the message was clear: sudden wealth can change a family fast. That same month, in February 1939, Mickey Rooney won the Juvenile Academy Award alongside Deanna Durbin. He had become the voice and face of youth for an entire country. Later that year, in Andy Hardy Gets Spring Fever, Andy fell in love with his new high school drama teacher. He wrote a play that got chosen for production just to be near her. He blushed, he chased, he stumbled. The audiences loved it. By now, Rooney was bigger than anyone expected. He was getting more fan mail than Clark Gable, over 40,000 letters a month. That's over 5,000 letters every week. He wasn't just playing Andy Hardy. According to Louis B. Mayer, he had become him. Mayer once grabbed him by the lapels and shouted, "You're Andy Hardy! You're the United States! You're the Stars and Stripes!" In Babes in Arms, Rooney was 19 and starring opposite Garland again. The movie was about vaudeville kids putting on a show. It was rushed through production between May and July 1939, just after Garland had finished The Wizard of Oz. Busby Berkeley cut most of the Broadway songs, kept 2, and let Rooney's tap dancing shine. It worked. The movie made over $3.3 million. It also gave Rooney his first Best Actor Oscar nomination. He was the first teenager ever to receive that honor. 1 year later came Strike Up the Band. Rooney learned to play drums for real. He led a high school orchestra trying to get to the World Series. Judy Garland sang. Paul Whiteman's band played. The movie made $349 million. It was even bigger than Babes in Arms. Their La Conga number got called the Rugaronga, a nickname built from their names. They were now the biggest musical team in Hollywood. But by 1943, something had shifted. In Girl Crazy, the final film he did with Garland, chaos took over. Berkeley clashed with the musical supervisor. Garland was exhausted and hated being yelled at. She once said working with Berkeley felt like being lashed with a black bullwhip. Sandstorms, breakdowns, romantic drama. It all happened behind the scenes. But the magic still showed up on screen. Garland's live performance of But Not For Me stunned even the critics. Despite everything, the movie worked. That same year, Rooney stunned audiences again in The Human Comedy. He played Homer McCauley, a telegram boy during World War II who delivered death notices to grieving families. The movie required something different: silence, stillness, and honesty. Director Clarence Brown said Rooney only needed one rehearsal. He called him the closest thing to a genius he had ever worked with. That film gave Rooney his second Oscar nomination for Best Actor. It proved he could do more than sing and dance. By 1962, Rooney had made $12 million just from MGM. He had been in 43 films between ages 15 and 25. He earned $5,000 per week at his height and later up to $100,000 per movie. But the money didn't last. He went through 7 marriages. He gambled heavily. He lost $50,000 in one night at the Riviera Casino in Las Vegas. And he fought constantly with Louis B. Mayer, demanding more serious roles. In one argument, Mayer again shouted, "You're a symbol." But Rooney didn't want to be a symbol anymore. He wanted to grow up. When World War II called, Rooney tried to enlist in 1941 but was rejected because of high blood pressure. He spent 2 years fixing his health and raising war bonds. Then, in June 1944, he joined the Army. He served over 21 months in the 68th 101th Special Services Battalion. He wasn't just acting anymore. He performed in Jeep shows just miles from the front lines. In Belgium, during a snowstorm, he did his first show between 2 Sherman tanks for 60 freezing soldiers. They cheered him on. He performed up to 11 shows a day. He earned a Bronze Star, a Sharpshooter badge, and 5 campaign medals. Out there, he was just another soldier trying to lift spirits. When he came home in 1946, he was 25. But Hollywood didn't know what to do with him. He was too old to play kids and too short, 5'2", to play adult leads. MGM gave him a contract for $25,000 per movie, down from $100,000. They tried to revive the Hardy series with love laughs at Andy Hardy, but he looked too old, wore a college beanie, and no one bought it. The movie failed. So did the series. He turned to lower-budget films like Quicksand just to pay the bills. By June 1962, everything collapsed. He filed for bankruptcy. He owed $484 to $914 and had only $500 left. The IRS wanted $106,686. The state of California wanted more. 3 ex-wives wanted unpaid support. He had blown through everything. People in Hollywood started laughing at him. They called it his downfall. He tried to hang on with serious roles. In The Bold and the Brave, he played a cowardly soldier in Italy. He got his second Oscar nomination, this time for Best Supporting Actor. In Babyface Nelson, he played a psychotic gangster. He turned down $1 million buyout just to keep his share in the movie. He believed in it that much. In Requiem for a Heavyweight, he played a boxing trainer who loved his fighter like a son. He cried on screen. Critics said it was his finest adult performance. In It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, he was just one part of a massive cast, but people noticed. His wild eyes, desperate voice, and perfect timing brought him back into the spotlight. The movie made $60 million on TV. He tried again with The Mickey Rooney Show in 1954. It was canceled after 33 episodes. He insulted the wrong sponsor, but he kept going. In 1957, he starred in Playhouse 90's The Comedian and earned his first Emmy nomination. In the end, Mickey Rooney worked almost non-stop for 90 years. He had over 300 credits. He rose to the very top. He crashed harder than most. And somehow, he kept going. When he died in 2014, his estate was worth just $18,000. But that didn't erase what he had built. He had once been the biggest star in the world. He started out in silent films, danced through vaudeville, sang in musicals, and lit up the screen through 9 decades. But Mickey Rooney's real life had more pain than applause. By the time he was 59, people thought he was done. He hadn't had a hit in years. His personal life was a mess. And the studios that once fought over him had all moved on. But on October 8, 1979, everything changed. That night, he stepped onto the stage at the Mark Hellinger Theater and debuted on Broadway in Sugar Babies beside Ann Miller. The burlesque musical wasn't just good, it was electric. It ran for 1,008 performances, closing on August 28, 1982. Rooney didn't miss a single show. He'd improvise every night, never saying the lines the same way twice. Ann Miller said he would jump off the script, make it up as he went, and somehow it always worked. He earned Tony and Drama Desk nominations for Best Actor. Then he and Miller took the show on the road for 5 more years, even doing an 8-month run in London. Suddenly, the kid everyone had forgotten was back. But it wasn't just on stage. That same year, in The Black Stallion, Rooney did something no one expected. He played Henry Daly, a quiet horse trainer with tired eyes and slow movements. There were no jokes, no shouting, no tap shoes, just silence and honesty. It was the kind of performance that made people stop and feel. He was 59, and it got him his 4th Oscar nomination. The movie had been made on a small $2.7 million budget, but it ended up earning $37.8 million. Critics called his acting subtle and beautiful. The film itself was so respected that in 2002, it was added to the National Film Registry. For the first time in decades, people saw the depth he'd been hiding under all the noise. Then came Bill. On December 22, 1981, the TV movie aired on CBS. Rooney played a mentally disabled man who had lived in an institution since he was 7. He used his own battles with depression to fuel the role. He didn't fake it. He felt it. The movie didn't just earn praise. It won an Emmy, a Golden Globe, and a Peabody. Rooney called it the project that saved his career. The real-life story behind Bill inspired Rain Man. That's how deep the performance went. He was no longer just the kid who danced. He was someone who made people cry. In 1983, the Academy gave him an honorary Oscar. Bob Hope called him astonishing. Rooney stood on stage, 62 years old, and said, "When I was 19, I was the #1 star in the world. When I was 40, nobody wanted me." It was the truth. His career had gone up, down, and sideways more times than he could count. But the award meant someone had noticed. It meant something stuck. And somehow, he still wasn't done. In 2006, at age 86, he walked into an audition room for Night at the museum. He didn't send a manager. He didn't call in favors. He just showed up. The director was shocked. Most young stars refused to audition for anything. But here was a legend reading lines. He got the part of Gus, an old security guard who still had fire in his eyes. The film made $240 million. He returned for the sequels and even filmed scenes for the 3rd movie just 6 weeks before his death. But for all the applause, Mickey Rooney's personal life was a storm. He married Ava Gardner on January 10, 1942. She was 19, he was 21. It lasted a year. While she was in the hospital recovering from surgery, Rooney cheated on her in their own bed. When she came home, she found the evidence and even learned Lana Turner, her best friend, had been one of them. Rooney had a nickname among the girls at MGM, Andy Hard On. He once drunkenly listed every woman he'd slept with to Ava, adding notes about their skills in bed. That was the end of them. He married 8 times. The 5th was Barbara Ann Thomason, a beauty queen. On January 30, 1966, her lover, a 25-year-old Yugoslav named Milos Milosevic, shot her in the face with Rooney's own chrome-plated revolver, and then killed himself. 3 of Rooney's children were in the house. 1 was staying with grandparents. Mickey was in the hospital in Santa Monica, recovering from an intestinal infection he picked up filming Ambush Bay. Just 100 days later, he married Barbara's best friend, Marge Lane. That didn't last either. His marriages gave him 9 children. They also destroyed his finances. In 1962, he filed for bankruptcy with $400,000 in debt, despite having made $12 million by then. His divorce from Elaine Devery cost him what would now be $3.5 million. His gambling addiction made it worse. One night, he lost $50,000 at the Riviera Casino in Vegas. In the 1980s, While making $65,000 a week in sugar babies, he was still losing it all. When he died in 2014, his estate was worth just $18,000. He owed medical bills, back taxes, and his funeral had to be paid for by donations. In the 1950s, he tried to kill himself multiple times. The studios said he had nervous breakdowns, but really, he was depressed. In his 1991 book, Life is Too Short, he talked about how therapy and faith kept him alive. He had bipolar disorder, he got hooked on sleeping pills, he got off them in 2000, when he was in his late 70s. For all his joy on screen, his private life was full of silence and sadness. Even with his kids, there was distance. He barely mentioned them in his memoir. He wrote more about his dogs. His daughter Kimmy Sue said she felt abandoned. In the 1940s, Louis B. Mayer had taken control of Rooney's money and career. Mayer once grabbed him and shouted, "You're Andy Hardy! You're the United States!" But that didn't stop the exploitation. Rooney made millions as a kid and saw almost none of it. The final years were painful. His stepson Christopher Aber and Aber's wife Christina kept him locked away and drained his accounts. On March 2, 2011, at age 90, Rooney stood in front of the U.S. Senate and said, "I was literally left powerless. They stole $8.5 million, denied him food, took his medicine, and forced him to work while telling him he was broke." A judge granted him a restraining order just days before his testimony. In 2013, the Abers agreed to a $2.8 million settlement. They never paid. Mark Aber, another stepson, became his caretaker. In March 2014, just weeks before his death, Mickey signed a new will that left everything, just $18,000, to Mark and his wife. He cut out his 8 biological kids, all his grandkids, and even his wife, Jan Chamberlain. When Rooney died on April 6, 2014, his body sat unclaimed for days while the family fought over what to do with it. Jan only found out he died from TMZ. A judge had to step in. On April 10, 2014, the court decided he'd be buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Jan was allowed to attend. Chris Aber and his wife were banned. In March 2025, his belongings went to auction. Old paychecks, expired credit cards, saggy cards, posters, letters, tiny things left from a giant life. What people saw was a warning. He'd made over 300 films. He had an honorary Oscar. He had fans for nearly a century. And yet, in the end, he had nothing left. His final message to the world came during that Senate testimony. He said, "If elder abuse can happen to me, Mickey Rooney, it can happen to anyone." He looked into the cameras and said, "You are not alone. You have nothing to be ashamed of." He told the truth, finally. And this time, he wasn't acting.